Welcome to Reddit Recap. Don't forget to subscribe. Reddit asks, children of single parents, who was the worst person your parent has dated? My dad started dating a woman who firmly believed that I was part of his old life and that he needed to cut ties with me. I was 14 and became terrified my mum would find someone who would do the same. And I'd end up with no family. My mom dated this guy named Rick. He always smelled like beef. All the time. He would come over and the living room reeked of beef. I would beg my mom to let me leave whenever he came over, but she said that would be rude. So I just had to be in the same house with that rotting meat basket called a man. He was over one morning when I had a late start. I went to school and a girl called me beef bitch. I cried for hours. Rick and my mom broke up because he got a job in another state and they hadn't been dating too long, so they decided to split up. My mom still won't tell me why he smelled like beef. She says it's his personal business. Definitely the guy who, after over a year of dating my mom and seemingly caring for both her and I, called her one night and said he never loved her and to not contact him again. No signs showing this is how he felt. He broke my mom for a while. I definitely wanted to find him. Ronnie. He was a carny that my mother met at a local fair. Whirlwind relationship that didn't last long. He didn't appreciate being dumped. He broke into the basement of our house late at night and used a set of tires and gasoline to start a fire under the stairs. I woke up in a house fire. I taught my kids to tie their shoes and never trust a carny. Currently my stepdad beats my mom, threatens to kill her, regularly threatens to kill me, comes into my room while I'm at work and throws all my clothes in the floor, and sometimes he takes a shit on my bed. Held my mom at gunpoint and threatened to rape my sister. My mom believes he's a good guy because he hates black people just like she does. So therefore there's still good in him. I have 8 brothers and sisters. All moved out when they could. Now it's my turn. In 3 weeks I'll be moved out. 6 years of this bullshit. Everyone has cut ties with them. I'm next in line. Since I've stayed the longest, the affects it's had on me are more noticeable. I was super happy-go-lucky, always had a smile, and was always trying to do my best in life. Cheering strangers up, helping out everyone I could. Now I rarely smile. Unless my girlfriend makes me laugh or I'm just being held by her. I definitely don't help anyone anymore. And have a constant doom and gloom attitude. I'm hoping to change for the better when I move out. Will take some time. But I'm getting very close to 30. So I'm worried that I'll always be this way. He lost his job 2 weeks after they got married. And never found another one. So he laid around the house watching TV. The most common words he said to me were to go away. The living room was his space. And he didn't want me in it when he was watching baseball. Which was most of the time. Sometimes when my mom was gone, he'd scream at me, top of his lungs. I was 8. He didn't clean. And he cooked for me twice. Burned hot dogs. And he acted like he was doing me a huge favor serving me shitty pan-burned hot dogs. His son visited every other weekend and I had to share a bedroom with him. Even though I begged them to put me somewhere else. He would wait for me to fall asleep and try to suffocate me with bed sheets, pillows, or his hands. My mom dated a guy named Mike. He had this weird rule that when he called the house, this is 1997-98 before we had caller ID, he would let it ring twice. Hang up and call again when we would be good to answer it. I was probably 10 during this. I remember not liking him and would answer the phone first ring every time just to piss him off. He wasn't a bad guy, just a giant douche. My mom dated an alcoholic. He beat her right in front of me and my brother. One time she was taking a shower, and he grabbed her by the hair and threw her outside when she was wet and naked. Everyone could see and it was humiliating to watch. I couldn't do anything. He was bigger and stronger than my brother and I. She stayed with this abusive asshole for like 4 years. I became traumatized and I hate alcohol. Alcohol scares me so much. But lately I've been trying to get over it. Alcohol shouldn't scare me forever. I've been letting my BF drink and I've freaked out a couple times. But the past couple days I've been getting more comfortable around him drinking. It's not fair to freak out when he drinks just because of bad experience. He's not the same guy. He won't hurt me. My mom dated my dad. He would emotionally abuse her and refuse to be a part of hers and mine lives. Years later, after my stepdad, who I consider to be my dad, I was doing bi-weekly visits on the weekends and going there before school, and one morning when she was dropping some stuff off for me, he tried to sexually assault her. Needless to say, just because someone is your father, it doesn't make them your dad. I have since then modeled my life behind becoming the complete opposite of him. Now I have a GF and a beautiful baby girl whom I spend every day of my life with. Thank you for letting me get this off my chest. TLDR, my dad is a piece of shit. Edit. I apologize for the spelling mistakes. I am currently on mobile. I mean, there were so many, but I think it's a tie between the pathological liar, the one with anger management issues, and the weed addict with the thumb ring. My half brothers were children of a single parent, and I think for them it was their stepfather. He punched our mother. I mean, he was an alcoholic. I'm so happy that my mother has now a wonderful relationship with my dad. My mom dated a dude who beat the living shit out of me. Dude and his brother took turns punching me in the face while the other held me down. I was about 11 at the time. My mom didn't bother to remove these turds from her life either. I am now in my 40s and still have scars on my face to remind me about it. A few months later, while I was at a summer camp paid for by a charity organization, the same dude put her in the hospital. A few weeks after that, I went to live with my aunt and uncle. She stayed with a dude. I haven't spoken to her in close to 20 years. My dad dated a lady who made us take Benadryl all the time so we would sleep the weekends we had to spend with him. Well, one of the side effects of too much Benadryl is hallucinations. So I would flip shit and say that I saw spiders everywhere and was afraid to shower cause I legit saw spiders coming out of the shower head. She would then hold me under and force me to shower while I was freaking the fuck out. I was semi-famous at the time Elvis impersonator singer for a band that had some success, and he's incredibly cocky and arrogant. My mom ended up marrying him, but they live in different states and only see one another here and there. It turned out to be a marriage of convenience after a few years. This woman brought a loaded pistol to a party my dad was at because she couldn't get in contact with him. This was before cell phones. My mum hooked up with a US Navy guy while his ship was in port. Then the ship left without him. We abandoned our lives while the three of us lived in a car for 6 months trying to avoid the shore patrol, who we found out were not even looking for us when we were all arrested for living in a Kmart parking lot. He went to the brig, and I didn't have any supervision for another 6 months as my mum spent all her time sitting outside his cell. One morning about a year after the whole thing started, she went in to see him and was told to wait because his wife and 5 kids were already visiting. This was news to her. He had insisted that he was single. She left in tears. And when she returned later that day, he was gone. And she never heard anything from him again. My 5th grade teacher. My mom also worked at the school, so all the kids knew her. It was awkward. My best friend's dad when he was separating from his wife. I don't know how much dating happened, but there was definitely something going on between them. Also, some creepy dude she met online who would only sleep with all the lights on and once threatened me when he thought I told my mom what her birthday gift was. Eventually she had to call the police on him when he wouldn't stop trying to get into our house. Those were the worst, but every single one of them was bad in some way. I think all the same dudes knew to stay away from my mom. Lol. My mom's first boyfriend after she left my dad ended up molesting me when I was 7. Her next boyfriend turned out to be gay and eventually went to prison for molesting little boys. The one after that got drunk one night and held a gun to her face. She stopped dating for 6 years after that one. It's hard to pick a favorite from that list. My old stepdad is in prison for killing and dismembering his girlfriend. Nobody, and that's the worst part. In her defense, she was busy raising us and working like a dog. She was bitter and now is lonely. Well, technically they were awful. Just stupid. The parade of barely legal women my dad dated. It got creepier the older I got and the closer they were to my age. Now he's old and the alcohol and drugs have taken his previously good looks and he can't get the young ones anymore. Now he goes for similarly mentally ill women around 30-40. We're NC. My dad dated a girl who was 24, I'm 18 and I have an older brother who is 22, and she was with him for 2 months when she threw away all of my deceased mom's good pans. They were passed on to me. Claimed to be addicted to heroin, which we later found out was a lie, and hooked my 13-year-old little brother up with a 19-year-old. My dad's ex-fiancée. She was almost our evil stepmother until one day she decided to call me a fat lazy bitch and my dad realized how awful she was to my sister and I. That was the day I learned how much he actually cared for us as well. He dumped her ass and kicked her out of the house. Her awful daughter left too and it was finally peaceful at my dad's again. He dated her on and off for years afterwards until she went back with her ex-husband. My dad has sworn her off for good now, which I'm glad for since she was a toxic person. I wish he could find someone worth his time though. I know he gets lonely. My dad was engaged to this extremely religious woman who believed firmly that the apocalypse was coming and most of the family would burn in hell. I didn't think it could get worse. But then he was at Walmart and found a drug addicted prostitute that he replaced her with and started smoking with her and doing crystal meth. It was like a 180 in the worst possible direction. He's single now and it's much better. I can think of two. First of all, my biological father. They got back together for a few weeks. He was a dick. I'd recently got my first pet, a ginger kitten, but I was having previously unknown allergy issues with it. Things were stabilizing for me though and I was getting used to it when one day my new cat disappeared. My dad admitted he let it out the door because he knew I'd been struggling. I spent weeks searching but never found it. The second was my stepdad. He was actually a really good guy and head over heels in love with my mom. I actually miss him a lot. The reason he was one of the worst? Well, my mom died when I was 17 and overnight my stepdad changed. Within a month he was in a relationship with another family member and suddenly he was violent and abusive. Left me with no food or money. Attacked me for accidentally breaking an ornament of his. And ultimately forced me to run away from home. I was on couch hopping for 9 months and never spoke to him again. He was called Greg. He was an abusive wanker. He used to lock me and my brothers out in the rain while my mum was at work. Had no way of contacting her before kids had phones. He did it in all weathers. He broke my mum's arm in front of me and my brothers. He grabbed my face so hard his nail left a cut in my cheek. My mum and my 2 aunties got their own back though. My mum stole his change jar. His change jar had notes in. There were number 1 PS or 2 PS. Only silver plus. One auntie smashed every single thing he had. Car windows. House windows. TVs, everything. She also promised to beat him whenever she sees him. She's kept that promise and has hit him 7 times so far on nights out. My other auntie kept reporting him to his boss for things he hadn't done. But they couldn't disprove. Like being horrible. Swearing at her. He was fired. He was a real piece of shit. And the actions of my family may have been drastic. If not illegal. But he most definitely deserved this. One wanker called Darren. I have a viral infection once that mimicked meningitis and he kept banging on about if I died he wasn't cleaning it up and that I may need a wheelchair. I punched him once when he tried throwing my cat outside into the rain. He's fucked off now, thank God. His name was Jeremy. The only man my mother ever had around me. He would beat me and try to bribe me with toys. But I wasn't a normal child. I wasn't interested in toys and couldn't be manipulated. A very long story short. I told my big uncle. The criminal. The one that was fiercely protective of my mother and I, and Jeremy was literally never seen or heard from again. Whatever my uncle did to make him go, he did a damn fine job. He made sure I knew he was always there for me. My mom got back together with her old high school boyfriend for whatever reason. Guy was like 60 but looked about a minute away from death. Super lanky. Reeked of cigarettes. Not a bad guy, but his general hygiene and health made him hell to be around. My stepdad, after being with my mom for 18 years, he finally told me he and a friend of his killed my dad. or possible the arseholes with now. That's all for this video. You made it to the end. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing so you know when the next videos are released. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.